Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to being a PSR. Hopefully today we'll answer some of your questions, and we've got some amazing EC members that are going to be on to help you answer any of your questions. My name is Monica Byrne-Jimenez. I'm the Executive Director of UCEA here in Michigan State University. I'll have the EC introduce themselves, and then we'll just sort of move on.
So good afternoon, good morning. I'm Bill Black, UCA president at the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. Great to see everyone.
I am Lisa Bass, EC member, University.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelby Cosner. I'm a professor at the University of Illinois at Chicago and the director of UIC's Center for Urban Ed Leadership.
I am Gerardo Lopez. I'm a faculty member at Michigan State University.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to give you everyone a chance to introduce themselves just quickly. But for the rest of this time, we hope to give you sort of a broad 30,000 view of UCEA and the organization, talk to you about what some of the roles and responsibilities are and potential opportunities of being a Plenum rep. We'll introduce you to our ongoing equity self-study and then give you just a glimpse of what to expect from our November meeting. So I'm just going to go down my little screen and ask you to introduce yourself and tell us where you're zooming in from. So I'm going to start with Pam.
Hi, everybody. I am zooming in from sunny El Paso, Texas, and I am an assistant professor in ed leadership at New Mexico State, which is just up the road in Las Cruces.
Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Marsh. I'm a professor of education policy at USC in Los Angeles, and happy to be here and happy to finally be a member of UCA. We've been trying for years and our institution finally made it happen. So glad to be here.
We are very excited. Thanks so much, Julie. Andrew?
I'm Andrew Leland, assistant professor in educational leadership at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville.
Also a new member of UCEA, so double welcome.
Thank you.
Brian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Mann. I'm an assistant professor in educational leadership and policy studies at the University of Kansas, and I'm zooming from Lawrence, Kansas.
Welcome. Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Stosich. I'm an assistant professor at Fordham University, and I'm zooming in from home in Brooklyn.
Thanks.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Andreen?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andreen Castro. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Educational Leadership at Virginia Commonwealth University, and happy to be here.
Great. Thanks so much, Andreen. And again, thanks everyone for taking time out of your Friday mornings or afternoons to spend some time with us. I will pass this on to Bill.
Well, good afternoon. As most organizations, we have our organizational structure chart but I'll always remind people we are a network of organizations and institutions. So while we have this, hopefully you'll meet many others through your work at UCA that lead to network partnerships. So you'll see an organizational structure. UCA is currently headquartered at Michigan State with Monica Byrne-Jimenez as the executive director. We successfully moved from the University of Virginia to Michigan State in the midst of a pandemic. And so that has brought with it its challenges that headquarters and Monica have traversed with great grace and resilience. Our governance structure, if you look at that, there's a UCA Plenum. You all are the members of the Plenum. There are 112 institutions now, which is the most we've ever had. We continue to grow as an institution. From the UCA Plenum, the executive committee is elected. Typically, but not always, there are 3 members of the executive committee that are elected every year, and they serve for 3 years. From the executive committee, you will also then have candidates for the presidency. And part of your role is to vote on the executive committee members and the president as well. Under the executive director, we have 2 executive associate directors at Michigan State. One that does a little more work externally, certainly with new membership, and that's Chris Torres. And then we have John Yoon that does, concentrates a little bit more on internal functions at UCA. We have 7 associate directors. Those usually do it on a voluntary basis, and they help carry forth many of our functions in UCA, including publications, oversight of our centers, oversight of graduate student programs, et cetera. There are multiple initiatives that they oversee. You'll see a graduate student council under there, where this year at convention, we're proud to celebrate the 10th year anniversary of the establishment of the GSC. And so we will be able to engage with them. Typically, they have a summit the day before the actual convention. And then you'll see who actually, quote unquote, works at Michigan State at headquarters. We have 7 graduate assistants. What's interesting, the way Michigan State's done it, is that most of them work, their GA-ship is part-time on UCA and then part-time working with professors, so that they get access to the UCA's work, but also continue developing their research agendas with professors. We have a new postdoctoral fellow. We have a policy project manager who works on policy initiatives for UCA. We have a headquarters coordinator and an events project manager. The 2 people you are most likely to interact with are Ruth Norris, who's the HQ coordinator. She can help with some membership issues. And then Carl Gildner, who's the events project manager, who has a magic wand that he is able to use to get our conventions up and running and successful every year. So we'll go over some of who we are. Obviously, we are we have 112 institutional members. We do not have individual members of UCA. It's constituted by institutional members, and we'll go over in a minute some of the vision, values, and goals of UCA. And you'll see our members. This was in 2019. We have them spread throughout the United States. We have most of our members, the largest number, are from Texas. But interestingly, you'll see that we have 87, this is from 2019, we've grown since then, 87 public institutions, 21 private institutions, 11 have religious affiliation, 9 HBCU, HSIs or MSIs. The majority are in urban settings, 45 institutions, 27 are suburban, 23 are rural, and 1 international. But we are spread throughout the country. We have a few states that still don't have an institutional member, but the majority of states are represented in UCA.
So let's jump into thinking about the vision, goals, and the values. You can see that when we think about our vision, we really bundle it into 4 broad areas. The overall arching emphasis is really thinking about a commitment to improving leadership and policy in the area of thinking very clearly about improving leadership and policy that supports learning and development of all children in schools. You'll see that a part of our work relates to high quality research and disseminating research that's impactful, particularly of K-12 students, improving learning in schools. But also we're very interested in research on leader preparation, leader development. You'll see that a part of our work lives in influencing policy. There have been a number of areas of work out of UCA that have been positioned to influence policy at the local, at the state, and at the national federal level. And typically when we are, for example, having a convention in DC or somewhere in that area, you'll even see that we'll have work that's actually happening on Capitol Hill or opportunities to interface with individuals on Capitol Hill for purposes of really influencing policy. You'll see that we're asking questions that we want to continuously interrogate our own practices, reevaluate our beliefs and our values so that the organization can become stronger. And I think when we talk about our equity self-study towards the end of today, you'll get a sense of how that equity self-study really lives in this fourth part of our vision. So values, if you think about sort of the central value that binds everything together, it's this notion of diversity, equity, and social justice. But then our values bundle into four broad areas. Part of our values relate to learning and the potential of all children. A part of our work and our values really live in this notion of how educational leaders are contributing to the consequential work of schools and improving schools for students. You'll see that a part of our values are about collaboration and community, and our organization is really intended to create lots of opportunities for individuals that may not otherwise have an opportunity to collaborate, to come together to collaborate on areas that are important to us. And so one of the things that I would encourage everybody to do is to think about using your position as a PSR to build collaborative opportunities between you and other PSRs or you and other scholars within UCA, not just yourself, but even your university, your program. And then you'll see that a value of ours is the notion of systematic inquiry within our organization and supporting systematic inquiry that can impact our field more broadly. So goals, you can see that they relate to many of the things that we've been talking about. We want to support the dissemination of high quality research in areas that are the areas that I've been discussing. You'll see that we want to support the dissemination of research within local institutions, but also support collaborative endeavors that can build research portfolios or research that could impact a variety of areas beyond just one institution. That we really are looking at supporting work that can address the essential problems of schooling, things that are happening within the school context that are most impactful of improving student learning for students. Many of our goals also relate to improving the preparation or the development of educational leaders. You'll see a number of initiatives that have happened over the last 10 years in particular that have been about supporting the continuous improvement of preparation programs or developmental experiences for educational leaders. And then you're going to see that a big bunch of work or initiatives relate to this notion of advancing educational policy that can impact any of these areas.
So now that we've talked a little bit about UCEA and kind of the big picture, we're going to kind of drill down a little bit and really talk a little bit about what it means to be a PSR. The PSR really does have three particular roles and responsibilities. There is a legal role, a linkage role, and a leadership role. So we're going to kind of dive in just a little bit by talking about those right now. The first one is this linkage role. Now, as a plenum rep, you really do play a critical role in linking the work of UCEA to the work of your institution. And that means kind of communicating the work that we do to your department faculty, to your program, to graduate students, to university administrators, to other individuals who and other organizations within your state or region that that really have interests that coincide with those of UCEA. We ask that you share all the UCEA information that you may get, and you will get a bunch of it, including any opportunities there are to get involved in research or kind of service-related projects with your colleagues. That becomes very, very important, just kind of really keeping those lines of communication open and really communicating the work of UCEA to your colleagues. We also ask that you maintain your department's UCEA directory, in part because, you know, that's the information that we deliver is you know, your colleagues need to make sure that that information is current, that it's updated, all of that stuff, and that they're getting it in a timely fashion. And so you're also responsible for making sure that we have the right and accurate contact information for your colleagues. We also ask that you report on UCEA activities at regular faculty meetings. So whenever there's an opportunity, make sure that you get on the agenda to provide your colleagues with updates about what's happening within UCEA. And sometimes there'll be initiatives that are out there, get their feedback. You know, make sure that you are going to accurately represent what they want, what they value, back to the plenum, so that we know what your institution's colleagues are interested in, and that you're accurately representing their perspectives and their positions at UCEA. Remember, I think the gist of this is that, you know, you represent your institution on all your voting, and so it would really behoove you to get your department's input in that regard. Next is a legal role, and by the legal role, we really mean that as a plenum rep, you really are kind of key in elections. And making sure that you elect individuals to the executive committee, and those who are on the executive committee get a chance to run for president. So you also get to elect the president of the organization. As part of this legal role, you also make changes in UCEA bylaws. So everything that's related to governance issues or bylaws issues, finance issues, etc., you get a chance to vote in on those and weigh in accordingly. You also make decisions about our annual kind of budget issues, not just kind of our investments, but kind of an annual budget. You have to approve an annual budget for us, for UCEA. And then you also get a chance to weigh in on membership. That is anybody who's applying to be a new member of UCEA, the plenum actually gets a chance to vote and weigh in accordingly. So everybody who's a new member here, your application was vetted first by the executive committee and then voted on by the plenum. And so the plenum members do play a critical role in a legal role, if you will, in the backbone of UCEA. Am I also covering the leadership role?
I think that's
I'm sorry, that's me. I thought you were going to cover the linkage role. So with the leadership, of course, we all know that UCEA is the leading organization in educational leadership. So we should take full advantage of all that it has to offer as PSRs, meaning that you promote the organization, you know, because you wear the name of PSR, people expect, you know, a lot of you in terms of promoting the organization. Let's see, and also that as individual, there are no individual members. Again, there's institutional members, but it's up to us as PSRs and EC members to promote all that UCEA has to offer. Also, in terms of program improvement, we're also always looking to improve our programs. And we expect all of you to participate in any of the initiatives that, you know, we offer as UCEA. Some of those might include threat analysis, the Inspire surveys, things that you are introduced to in PSR meetings that we ask your feedback on, And you'll experience some of that when we meet in Columbus. Professional learning opportunities, we expect you to stay up to date with changes in policies and changes in the field, to engage in professional development and learning opportunities during the Plenum Convention and throughout the year. For example, we offer webinars, cafes, seminars. You'll hear those, you'll receive emails, and then you'll hear about those again during Plenum meetings. And then to also take advantage of networking opportunities, that you network with other PSR members, as well as in meetings and conferences, and that we ask that you don't be shy about sharing your interest in how you might get involved. Someone will assist you and help you to develop and use the PSR networks. Generally, we've had people paired. I don't know if we'll do that in Columbus this year, but we pair newer members with people who've been PSRs for a while so that they can help facilitate that process. As you know, the commitment to PSR is 3 years, and that during that 3 years, we would hope for consistent leadership, that you continually enrich your organizational knowledge, that you remain visible, and that you have a sense of personal accomplishment, hoping that you serve up to 6 years if you are interested in serving beyond the plenum as a plenum rep. And that we realize that we don't have all the answers. We have lots of great people in the organization, but that your expertise is valued greatly as PSR members.
I'm not sure if you wanted to stop a moment here and see if anyone had questions. You know, there's a lot of information and can be a little complex. So if you have any questions about anything that we talked about being a PSR right now, or you can wait to the end. All right, great. We'll just keep going then.
Okay, so the organization has developed over the years resources that we know are very helpful in educational leadership and in leadership development. And we also have professional opportunities for you that you know about in terms of your own writing and your own publications. Some of those journals and publications include EAQ, JRLE, the UCEA Review, and policy briefs that are released by UCEA. And not only do our member organizations depend on these resources, but they are actually used in the educational leadership field more widely. We also hope that you take advantage of and promote our website and our web-based resources, and that you teach the people that you work with, your other colleagues at your institutions, to use the web-based resources, because they can really help you or help your colleagues as they teach their classes. You can also use those, the administrative access, to check on if your institution has paid their dues, check on the calendars. With the resources, the webinars, you can use those as well as promote the things that students may actually benefit from, and also again that your colleagues can use. Again, there are cafes and other interactive sites that you can take advantage of, including an interactive talk show. UCEA has a YouTube channel where you can see recordings of webinars. UCEA is on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also a blog. So again, tons of resources that you can take advantage of.
So over the years, there have been a variety of initiatives that have been started within the context of UCEA. And let me say that over the next 10 years, I would envision a whole new set of initiatives that we would be seeing on the screen. My expectation is that our equity self-study will allow us to identify a next phase of initiatives that really can help us to move forward our equity-oriented focus. But when you see on the screen now, you can see some areas that have been prior initiatives. The Voices from the Field phase 4, there were 3 phases before phase 4, but the Voices from the Field has really been an area of work that's been ongoing for many years, where there is a study at a particular given point in time that allows us to learn very much from boots on the ground practitioners about various topics, where we generate new knowledge and then we disseminate it in various ways. You can go online and you can see about the Voices from the Field phase 4 study. The state ESSR plan and implementation analysis. Typically, whenever there is a, let's call it a federal initiative or federal mandates, you can see that UCA is on the front end of really trying to study how a mandate gets enacted, what's happening within certain state contexts, so that we can learn about what's actually happening and maybe how to amplify or strengthen policy implementation in various contexts. In the Wallace Foundation, many of you might be aware that the Wallace Foundation has been really engaged in supporting preparation program improvement over the last probably 5 to 8 years. They have worked with preparation programs. They have worked with school districts. They've worked with school districts and preparation programs in collaboration. UCA has formed a very tight collaborative relationship with the Wallace Foundation over the last 5 or 6 years. Most recently, their project was UPPI, which brought together 7 universities and their district partners that were going through a redesign process. And there were mentor programs from across the United States that were involved in that also. That program is just ending, and a new one, an equity focused UPPI project, is just beginning. But our long-standing relationship with Wallace Foundation is continuing because there are a lot of synergies in collaborating with the Wallace Foundation, because they're very interested in supporting the ongoing continuous improvement of leadership development. So that is an area that I could imagine that people could be involved with in future years. 2 other areas that are really important, graduate student development and early career mentoring. Let me just say that from my perspective, although I'm so excited to be involved with UCA for so many reasons, one of the things that's so powerful are the opportunities for our graduate students. Like my UIC students benefit mightily by our involvement with UCA, because there are so many different ways that I can get them engaged that help them as early budding scholars. The Graduate Student Summit that provides a really strong connection point for graduate students is really important. It allows them opportunities to present their research at various points in time. But beyond that, we've got a David L. Clark seminar, we've got Jackson Scholars Program. If you're not familiar with either one of those, I would encourage you to sort of take a look at both of them. There are opportunities for your institution to nominate students to be selected to participate on these national research projects or seminars. The David L. Clark seminar is you can identify 2 students in your university that compete nationally to get selected for this seminar. It happens in conjunction with ARA. It's highly selective, but it allows a student who's just getting ready to take on a dissertation study, who's maybe at the proposal phase, to be able to work with a team of scholars on their work at that early phase before it goes into actually working on it in a dissertation. Many of us, and probably all of us who are executive council members, had that David L. Clark seminar experience back in the day when we were grad students, and we all benefited tremendously from it. And I've had many of my students participate in it over the years, and it's always been a tremendous learning experience for them. The Jackson Scholars is a great opportunity, or a similar opportunity, or research and a selective experience for students of color. And it supports them, I believe, for 2 years. And so you really want to think about students that you have in your programs that you can nominate for either or both of those experiences, because they're really tremendous early career socializing experiences for our grad students that we wouldn't otherwise have access to. But then also we have early career mentoring. You'll see that there are a variety of programs and seminars built into the UCA convention for early career scholars to get experience in not just, for example, we have teaching seminars where you can learn about teaching in higher ed, where you can get mentoring on your scholarship, and where you can learn about various journal articles and what it takes to get published in those various journal articles through meetings with editors. So particularly linking back to the linkages page, I would encourage each of you to become really deeply aware of what's happening under the graduate student and the early career mentoring, because you can play a key role in getting your graduate students and your early career scholars in your ranch connected to things that are going on in UCEA that become really developmentally supportive to their early career development.
So let's talk a little bit about this equity self-study. We've mentioned it a couple of times throughout this presentation, and I think it's important for us just to kind of get a sense of what this equity self-study is. If we, think about the past couple of years and what's been going on in our world, and particularly within the United States, there's been a variety of different issues: increased racial tension, police violence against Black bodies, politicians fomenting divisions, kids in cages, just increased racial tensions. I think it was that context really forced us as an organization to really think about, what is it that we value, who we are, and where are we in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we began a series of discussions, certainly under the leadership of Monica Byrne Jimenez, who really kind of got us to focus on these questions about, whether our current practices and policies are reflecting what we value, what we believe. We say we espouse to be an organization that says that we value diversity, equity, inclusion. How real is that? When it hits when we look at some of the data. And so we had a series of conversations within the executive committee that we're strategically focused on thinking about how do we examine our own practices, and through the leadership of everybody on the executive committee, really started to think about how do we go about doing that, and we proposed to do a self-study where the goals really are to kind of amplify our strengths, address our limitations, and grow, as Shelby Cosner was saying. How do we take our organization to the next level and the next stages? In terms of what we've done so far with respect to the self-study, we began by really reviewing the bylaws, kind of thinking about vision. This process started in about 2019, and kind of like looked at our current vision and got a chance to kind of discuss that as an EC. We developed kind of the rough outlines of what this self-study should look like, identified some potential areas, and had some really profound, rich discussions about what areas would be wise to pursue. We presented the equity self-study to the plenum. We received feedback from plenum members about this. The plenum kind of was really excited about joining us in this initiative. At that time, Bill Black kind of entered and really took the equity self-study and really got us a chance to hone in deeper, identifying kind of prioritizing areas that we really needed to focus on, what would be kind of the top things that we should be focusing on, things that might wait a year or two down the line. And then we've been spending time really just kind of getting into the nitty-gritty, defining these areas, honing them in, and really begin the process of collecting some data. So we're really at the initial stages of this still, and we're really excited about the work of the equity self-study, and we're looking forward to having everybody who's on this webinar join us in this initiative.
And as Dr. Lopez had indicated, we set out with original priority areas, and you'll see we had 6 of them. Again, based on our conversations with the plenum: governance, scholarship, faculty preparation and development, culture and climate, partnerships and collaborations, and leadership preparation and development. And then after further discussion this year, and again, seeking feedback from the Plenum, we settled on 3 priority areas, which are governance, leadership preparation and development, and culture and climate. And in particular, we started originally looking at our policy manual and some of the areas that lend themselves to data collection, review of language. Originally, we really are starting with some governance areas in particular, while we will be doing work on the other 2 as you come to Plenum in November. We'll be asking you to consider some of the areas of governance, including organizational membership. Some of the questions we've been discussing are, what does it mean to have associate members versus full members? What does that imply for equity? What does it mean when UCA started with 30 institutions that were primarily land grant and private R1s, but now we're 112 institutions? We look different than we did before. How do we elect people to the plenum? How do we elect people to the executive committee? Are there barriers to having people having access, equity, and diversity goals represented through these processes? We looked at sabbatical review, and one of the things that's interesting as we try to live up to our standards, we have language about every member institution is supposed to be reviewed every 7 years. We haven't necessarily lived up to that. What are the criteria for that? So this is work that we're looking at, and how do centers align with these broader goals and make sure that there are strategic priorities that are reflected in the establishment and support of the center. So I focus on governance as an initial area of emphasis, though we continue to certainly work on leadership preparation and development, as well as culture and climate. And as you can imagine, we've begun gathering data around this. We'll ask you for some data as well as Plenum reps on your own programs. As all of us transition through the last 2 years of interruptions, we know we're on the cusp of doing more work. Even as we're very busy, as you come in November, we'll be asking you to help us further this study. And as part of the study and review of the policy language, we find out there are gaps in some of the language, including around awards. And in the interest of transparency, we seek guidance from Plenum members, et cetera. There has been, we wanted to share with you that in the fall of 2020, the EC received a proposal for a new award. In the winter 2021, we formed a subcommittee to review the proposal and policy. We again look back at the policy manual. We decided to create an award, the Social and Racial Justice Award, and to wait for naming it until after the equity self-study, given that there were no policies in place at the time. We also named the award Dr. Linda Tillman as the first recipient of the award. The Plenum ratifies the new award. The original proposal also asked us to name the award the Tillman Award. And there was concern that we did not do that. So therefore, there was a petition that started circulating to have us name that award. We continue to engage with the people that put forward the petition, and we'll engage with the Plenum around this. We'll have opportunity to discuss it as well on Monday at 11:30 with Plenum members as we continue to look at our policies and procedures in ways that reflect the equity self-study. And again, we share this because we know that this petition is out there, and we want to be transparent and seek guidance from you all as part of the plenum. And speaking of the plenum, in November, hopefully you've been seeing this information, and this is some information that in your linkage role can be crucial to share with people. The EC, we're amongst the first conventions to have people come back face to face. So we've made every effort to make it as safe as possible. We are asking for proof of vaccines. If that's not the case, there's a waiver process, and you'll need to provide proof of negative test results. We will have masking policies in place, social distancing, again, attempting to keep it as safe as possible. On Wednesday, November 10th, in the afternoon, you'll have an opportunity to meet with the EC and formally discuss any issues that are here, including the award issue. And immediately after that, we'll have a reception. On Thursdays, when we actually have the formal plenum meeting from 7:30 to 12, we're trying to make this engaging and efficient. We know in the past, we used to have longer plenum meetings. We're moving towards sharing as much information beforehand as possible, as well as having multiple meetings. So while we have a meeting in November, you'll also be asked to come to a meeting in January as well. That again is not a lengthy meeting, but then would allow us to share some other information there. Hybrid options are available. So if you're not attending face-to-face, please let us know so that we're able to plan for engagement via Zoom and cluster PSRs appropriately via Zoom. So please let us know. In preparation for this, you'll go to the plenum page. You'll get policy manual. You're going to get information on elections again for the executive committee and for the president, and you'll get some HQ updates. So you should expect to receive that information from headquarters, as well as, I think to Shelby's point earlier, you will also be paired with a plenum partner, someone who's been a plenum rep previously, who can informally answer any questions you have. But again, we're also here available at any time to answer any questions for you around your role as a plenum rep. And speaking of questions, do we have any questions?
I had a quick question. At the plenum meetings, are other faculty members allowed to participate? Can they sit in, or do they have to share, their concerns or a question with us and then we share it, or are others allowed to just observe?
So typically it is the plenum reps that would present there. There are opportunities for people to request time on the agenda to the EC. So that's a possibility as well, but typically it runs through the plenum reps.
And then one other question, as far as selection of the cities for upcoming UCEA conferences or any conference, do we vote on that? How are those cities' locations selected? Because in today's times, it's often important for us to make sure that we are supporting or visiting certain areas that are, in agreement with what we represent. So I just wanted to make sure in the future we're not going to places where folks aren't welcome, or just agendas are different than ours.
That's a great question, Pam, because we've had that discussion on the EC in terms of seeking guidance. What's often difficult is that we select sites several years in advance, and then sometimes legislation happens in the meantime, and so if there are issues, we would discuss that and ways that we can respond. And so we've had those discussions in the past, and we try to avoid that to the extent possible, but sometimes we can't predict what legislators will do in their wisdom as we move forward. I don't know, Monica, do you have, we've already got the next 4 cities lined up.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question and something that we're constantly struggling with in terms of being aware of changing local contexts. So this is what happened to us in Ohio this year. We agreed to come to Ohio 3 or 4 years ago. Ohio changes its legislation over the summer. And then we find ourselves in a situation where we're in a city that or a state that's enacting legislation that's counter to our values. At this point in the game, it's sort of an issue of how do we address that internally at the convention? How do we message to our members and our membership about, we understand what's happening, and we'll continue to figure ways out with local institutions, local members about what we can do to support them as this situation continues. So we are always aware of that. I think it's when we do look at future cities, future host cities, clearly size is always an issue. Who can host us, but we also have sort of a list of criteria. Issues of social equity and racial justice clearly is one of them, but also in terms of accessibility for those among us who have issues with accessibility, that may have special needs, making sure that that's available for them. We've even begun looking at sort of issues of sustainability, in which hotels have commitments to, green energy, water conservation, all of that. So, as these issues continue to evolve in the sort of the convention conference space world, we are definitely taking those into account as we make our decisions.
Thank you.
But for now, the next cities are Los Angeles, Seattle, Minneapolis, and we're trying to get back to San Juan. The 3rd time, hopefully, is the charm. We've had to move it out of there twice before.
Any other questions? I like to remind people, I used to be a classroom teacher, so I have really good wait time. So I guess if there are no other questions, this is, please feel free to, Bill has said this before, everyone on the EC has said this as well, feel free to reach out to us with any questions, concerns, ideas. We're absolutely open to hearing from people. I think one of the things that we've tried to do really purposefully in the past couple of years is to engage the plenum in new ways. And to make sure that the leadership of the organization is accessible to all plenum members, trying to reculture the plenum a little bit to make it a much more active, interactive part of our governance structure. And so, with all the fits and starts that creates, but again, please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time if you have questions or if you have concerns. I think one of the things, actually, if I may go back just a little bit to the convention update, I think, one of the things we've let people know is that we understand that we are living in consistently and constantly changing times. So for some reason, you have to, if you're not able to come to convention, if you've registered and have to stay home for caretaking or anything, we will absolutely fully refund you. And we do have virtual options available. And so please, to make sure that, don't feel free to reach out to us about that as well. So on behalf of the EC, of Bill, Shelby, Gerardo, and Lisa, thanks again so much for taking time to be here. we're really, really looking forward to seeing you, or as many of you as possible, at convention and being together in the same space. And if you're not able to be there in person, we will be carrying you with us and be missing you. And hopefully you can attend virtually. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you in Columbus.
Ciao.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.